You know, fall is my favorite time of year. And one of my favorite things about the fall is having bonfires. And if you're going to have a bonfire, of course, you have to have s'mores. Now, in order to make the perfect s'more, you have to have your graham crackers and, of course, your marshmallow and your chocolate. And you take your marshmallow and you roast it to perfection, and then you put your s'more together. But what a lot of people don't know is that in order to make the absolute perfect s'more, there is one more step in the s'more making process. In Luke chapter 14, Jesus shares some really, really difficult things. Starting in verse 25, he says this: "Now great crowds accompanied him, and he turned to them and said, 'If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother, wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not bear his own cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. For which of you, desiring to build a tower, does not first sit down and count the cost, whether he has enough to complete it?'" Now, let's be clear. Jesus here is not telling us that we need to go around hating everyone and hating ourselves. In his commentary, William Barclay talks about this, and he says, "The language of the Middle East is always as vivid as the human mind can make it." And in this moment, Jesus is being very, very vivid to make a very clear point. If we're going to follow him, he has to come first. He has to come first in our families. He has to come first in our careers. He has to come first in our finances. He has to come first above everything else that we dream about in this life. Jesus has to come first. And this is where it gets risky, because it can be pretty risky to put Jesus first in your family. And it can be pretty risky to put Jesus first in your career or your finances. It can be pretty risky to put Jesus first in your popularity and your status. It can be pretty risky to put Jesus first in your life. But some of the best things come when we take great risks. Jesus also said in John chapter 10, verse 10, "I have come that they may have life and have it abundantly." You see, Jesus, when we risk for him, offers us the life that we truly seek deep down. And some of the best things come when we take great risks. Take the s'more, for example. There is one final step in making the absolutely perfect s'more, and that's this. You take your stick and you balance the s'more on the stick just so, and you hold it over the hot embers, allowing the chocolate to melt just a little bit so that you have the perfect, gooey, delicious s'more that you're seeking. Now, every time I do this at a fire when other people are around, people are always like, "Oh, CJ, that's risky. You're going to drop it." And yes, it is risky. And there have been times that I've dropped s'mores. But in my mind, I always think, "Oh, you have no idea how worth it is to take this risk." And if we can take risks for Jesus and find that life that he created us for, we will begin to think, you have no idea how worth it is to take this risk for Jesus. And so how do we take risks for Jesus? Well, I think we've complicated the process. I think when we think about taking risks, we've thought about how we have to do these large things in this grand scale. But really, all he wants is for us to take the next step with him. You see, so often we hear Jesus telling us what he wants us to do in our lives. We hear him saying, "Take this next step with me in our families or in our finances or in our status symbols or our careers." Often it's just a small thing, but it's risky. And if we can begin to listen to Jesus' voice. Now, it's not going to be an audible voice. I've never experienced an audible voice of Jesus, but there's probably going to be a gut feeling where you're like, I probably should do this. That's Jesus. That's the Holy Spirit asking us to risk for him. And so my encouragement to you this week, if you want that life that you've always been seeking, take some risks for Jesus. How do you do that? You listen with your gut to what he's asking you to do, and then you do it. This week, take some risks for Jesus and find that perfect life that you've been searching for. Thanks for listening.